read just fine. It's okay.
Okay.
Your last name, am I saying that correctly? Is it Wirtz?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Can you go ahead and raise your right hand?
Right there? Okay,
Yeah,
yep.
that's good enough. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to provide is true and accurate?
I affirm.
Thank you. Can you see the parcels there up on the screen?
Yes, I can see them well.
Okay, now we have very specific names for them. Do you have any other specific names it's easier for you to refer to them as?
I do. The 187 would be the Kewen farm.
Which one's that?
And that's the 187, ending in 187.
I can't read that. Thank you.
On my screen right now, on the left one.
Okay.
Okay, that one is, that one doesn't matter. That's okay. Just the Kewen one on the left.
Okay.
Yes, that one.
All right. Can you describe the current use of your property and any plans you may have for a different use in the future?
Okay, yes, I will talk about that one. My 5 siblings and I own that ground, inherited from my parents. My mom is still living, and she's on a life estate on the other parcels. But this one is ours, and so we receive the rent off of it. Summit is proposing to cross that. You can see on the south side. Our farm is now a third-generation farm. My son, daughter, and 19-year-old grandson just started in the operation. It's all organic, certified organic, and the crops are either corn, soybeans, or oats. There's a hog building right underneath of that little caption thing, about right there, on the opposite side of the field. On the north side of the field is the hog barn, which we do not own, but we get the manure out of it to apply to our organic field. We have that field is really important in the tiling operation. Can I read it to you? I think it'd be clearer if I read that.
Sure.
It has a 48-inch tile main. Okay? And it's right down there where they want to put that pipeline. It was part of a $3 million tile project. Dan Fair just testified 2 days ago, and that's the project that we are a part of with that big neighbor group that got together, and there's 1,400 acres that drain out of there. I am the end, so I have the biggest tile main. It's 48 inches tall, and it's 60 inches wide. And I actually sent a picture of it, an exhibit picture, so that you can see how huge it is. It's also an oval shape, which is special because they wanted to get as much ground cover as they could. So it's squished down into a 48-inch tall by 60-inch wide tile. Yeah, you see that? He's standing right by it. It's massive. And that has changed the neighbors and my crops through there with the water drainage that has been incredible since we installed that. And that is my biggest concern for that one.
So, I'm gonna.
Yep, go ahead.
Real quick, so you've got, is it 4 exhibits here?
Yeah, this is the one that's of the tile. The other exhibits are, one is of the irrigated that's across the creek from this. This is the only one that is specific to this 80 acres.
Okay, so we can call this exhibit number 1. Do you want to show us the other 3 exhibits real quick before we see if we admit them?
Yep, that'll be fine. Okay, and that is across the creek from the drainage tile there. That's the 240 acres that we share with the fairs. It goes across our 80 acres that we farm. We're a tenant on this 80 acres that the picture is. Goes across that, and then at windshield, they call it a windshield wiper or wiper irrigation, and then it crosses the 80 that we own, my siblings and I, and then goes into another 80 that my siblings and I own, and then sweeps down to our neighbor's field. So there's 240 acres that are affected by that irrigation system.
Thank you. And the third one.
Okay, and then that is what the irrigator does that we are concerned, the 24-month easement. That is our map of how much the irrigation. Can you see that green where it looks like a windshield wiper? That green spot is the crop with irrigation, and the red and yellow on the red and yellow over there, that's what is not irrigated. And that's what we have, 240 acres that if they have a 24-month easement, we're going to potentially lose each year. If it's 24 months, if it's 2 growing seasons, it could potentially be, if it was corn, it'd be $200,000 for just that area that it would hurt us.
Thank you, Ms. Wirtz. Did you want to move to admit these exhibits?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is there an objection from any of the parties? Seeing none, these exhibits will be admitted as Wirtz hearings exhibits 1 through 3. 1 being the picture of the gentleman standing by the tile, the second being the irrigator, and the third, the yield map. Okay. Thank you for walking us through that, Ms. Wirtz. Can we go back to the KMZ file? Zoom out just a touch. Okay, so the picture of the yield map, correct me if I'm wrong, the proposed line would just bisect right through the middle of that green area on the west of the yield map, and on the west side of that middle parcel to the east side of that second parcel.
That's correct. That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
And it just catches. Yep, you can see that long. Yeah, the long one in between those red ones, the red boxes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the top of the wiper thing.
And where is the
And
center?
then it comes down to the east and around. It's actually where I see the pipeline. It's right south of that pipeline.
Okay.
Of where they propose that pipeline. That is the center of it, and that's why if they would give us a 24-month easement on that, it would be huge, because you wouldn't be able to irrigate one or the other side for that 24 months.
And I believe we touched on it.
Which would be massive.
Sorry, the video froze, so it's hard to tell if you're
you did.
pausing. We'll get that. That'll work itself out. The center pivot, the water source, I believe Mr. Fair testified to it, but I don't recall. What is the water source for the irrigation system?
There are two wells. There are 2 wells that are by the pivot that they get it from.
So they're located near the pivot.
And I believe located right by the, right by the center of the pivot.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the center of the field. Let me look and see. Okay.
So I believe I call that the Kewen farm. The
That's
red
right.
parcel on the west. It looks like the pivot is just southeast of the red shaded area next to what appears to be a waterway.
Yes, well, it's to the east of that waterway.
East, yeah.
Is that what you said? Okay, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Circling back to the tile, you said 48 inches wide, 60 inches wide, 48 inches tall. What's the depth? What's the depth of that tile?
Oh, my husband would know. He knows all these. And are you saying in the field is the depth of the tile, or where at? Because it's
The cover.
Cover on top of it. Okay, so it's 3 to 4 feet down. They smashed it as an oval. I mean, they didn't smash it. It's shaped as an oval, and it comes so that they could have an extra 12 inches. Yeah, an extra foot. It was a specially designed oval so that they could have another foot of coverage on it. It would be that much deeper underneath of the ground.
And can you describe where that runs on the field? And just a quick reminder, we will be reading the record later. We won't necessarily have the picture. We'll have the picture in front of us, but it's very helpful to say east of this, west of this, and use landmarks.
Okay. All right. So, look on my, this is here. Okay, so, all right, approximately 100 feet north of the south fence. 100 feet north of the south fence.
So the south fence, is that the bottom of the red shaded line?
Yes, right. Yep, because the pipeline is to the north of that, of the edge of the field. Do you have a picture of the tile or not?
Yeah, yes, we do.
Have a map of.
So the pipeline is proposed to be 100 feet north of the south edge, but the tile,
Yes, that's correct.
The
and
tile, the tile is also located.
Yeah, and that's why we're so worried, because we have this huge, massive tile main that we're the end of it. In other words, if something would happen to that huge tile on ours, we just affected 1,400 acres, which coincidentally, actually, my fourth 80 that our family, we just have 4 80s that our family has. And that other 80 is directly affected by this too. So if this tile would break, even my fourth 80 would be affected by the backup of water.
And sorry to be redundant. I just want to be very clear. The proposed project line effectively runs parallel to that pipeline.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Like so close, because when they came and spoke to me, and I said, well, how's that going to work? And they said, well, we'll just put it underneath. And that's why I'm testifying, is because to have that huge of a project and have them say that they're going to go underneath, right underneath of that huge tile. Just, that's why I'm testifying today.
Just for the record, I think I misspoke there. The tile runs parallel to the pipeline. I think okay. Is there any other buried infrastructure on the ground on any of the parcels, whether it be telecommunication, fiber, gas lines, other tile lines?
A gas line. There is a gas line and there's lots of tile lines.
Do you know where the gas line is located?
No, I do not.
And the tile, where is other than the large 48-inch tile, can you give us a sense of where the remainder of the tile is?
Well, there's, off of that large tile that runs across the field, then there's a huge amount of pattern tile that goes laterally to it. So there's all of them that feed into that large tile.
So the pattern...
It's pattern tile. The whole field is pattern tiled. I know that.
All of them, or just the Kuhn farm on the west?
All of them.
Okay.
They are all pattern tiled.
And those pattern tiles generally run north to south?
Correct.
Okay. And can you give us a sense of the average size and depth of those tiles?
No, I can't.
Okay.
If my husband could just be in the room, he's the one that knows all of this. I know the writing the checks out for taxes, but he knows all of these numbers.
Okay. The gas line, is there any other easements, any other third-party easements attached to any of the parcels?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Other than the center pivot, are there any buildings or structures?
There's a hog facility. There's a hog facility on the north end of the Q&80. That's the only structure that's there. There's no above ground poles or anything like that. And then on the other side, it's just the farm that you can see on that picture.
And who lives in that farm?
That would be Corey Fair's son lives on that farm. And then there's another, actually, on that home on the north, there's actually, if you look, there's actually two homes there. It's just someone that bought it after my folks moved out. I can't even remember their name, but they own it.
Thank you. And the distance of those homes to the pipeline, do you know that? Or have an estimate?
Yeah, it's a half a mile.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's almost a mile. Those are half miles. So it's a half a mile from the highway that's right by that home to the pipeline. The half a mile, a little bit less than a half a mile. The half a mile minus 100 feet.
Okay.
Correct. And those are the two homes that are right there.
No. 0.39 miles or just under half a mile. Thank you.
Correct. Yes.
I see this. What's the name of that stream running through the center of the? Well, I guess on the east side of the Kuhn farm.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure it has an official name, but I don't know what it is. Okay. I've never known. The whole time that I lived there, we never had a name for it either. It was just the creek. We always called it.
So it's active and generally has running water.
Oh yeah, they just cleaned it out last year, actually.
Is it prone?
county.
Is it prone to flash flooding?
No, not, well, when we get heavy rain, it backs up on, the east 80 there that you see in between the red one. It backs up there, and then very quickly goes out. It doesn't do any crop damage.
And any other streams or bodies of water on any of these parcels?
No. Nope.
Any other features or conditions that might not be readily apparent from the map or your exhibits?
Just the gas line, and it does run north and south in that 180. I'm not even sure which one it is.
I'm sorry. Do you know?
Oh, you know what? It's it's in the 180. 80. That's where it's at. The one that ends in 180. That's where the gas pipeline comes.
The easternmost part?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And it runs north to south in the center of the field. You said the east side of the field? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Center. Okay. Do you happen to know who owns and operates that pipeline?
It's so old, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay. Can you describe any specific concerns you may have and any recommendation you have for board action to address those concerns?
Well, when you ask if I have any advice where to go, I don't, because so much of the field is tiled and covered with by the irrigator. My biggest concern is that we can get to our ground with the organic. It's like every 3 days in the growing season that they're out there. And if we can't get to our ground, I don't know. It is a really big concern. Just to share with you why when I became concerned was when they had come to talk to me about how much we would take for, and I said, well, I don't care what you pay me. I don't want to do it. And so then we visited a little bit, and I explained to him about the organic, that it takes 3 years to certify, and all you just fight it weeks all the time, and you work towards making it better every year. And he said, well, when you harvest the corn, you do that by hand. And I thought, that's so out of, no, we use a combine. And I just thought, I don't know how to work with them on making something fair when that was his perception, was if we harvested our corn by hand. So.
The organic crop yield reduction, do you have an idea? I mean, we touched on it a little bit yesterday, but when we're dealing with specific parcels, is there a sense of the variance in yield average versus traditional crops and a variance in the price average so that you could gauge crop loss should it become an issue?
Well, the variance is definitely not as much in the yield, because the yield is pretty comparable to conventional, but it's the crop itself that is so much more valuable.
And historically, do you have a sense?
You can see on that. Oh, go ahead.
Historically, do you have a sense of the value of variance? Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I've got two. I help on the farm, but I'm not, my husband keeps all the books. I just know that, like, the corn is $13 and the beans are way more than what they are normally with conventional. You can see on that, the irrigator map that the yield is comparable to conventional farming. Outside the irrigator it's not, but inside it is.
Okay, I think we talked about alternative routes, but before I turn you over to the parties, do you have any specific concerns about the project you'd like to address that you haven't already? Just the fact that they want to go so close to my pipeline. To your title?
To the main. Yes. Because what scares me is that something will happen and they won't even know that they cracked it or harmed it. And then when spring comes or a heavy summer rain comes and we find out, oh, it did get damage to it, there's no way that they could fix anything fast enough to repair the flood damage that would be done to all those 1,400 crops, 1,400 acres of crops. I just can't see them having a quick repair on something of that massive thing. And the washout would be huge on a tile line that big. It just could be really big for a lot of our neighbors if they do something and we won't find out about it until we get a heavy rain and they might be long gone with all their equipment and you don't even know it happens until later. There's no way of testing that much water to see if it's still going to drain the way it should, the way it has been. You know, Joan Wirtz was on that video. I wanted to test to see if I could get into the meeting with my Zoom, and I saw that he was talking about, and I do remember that being a lake for a couple of months after we would get a heavy rain, and that is all taken care of. It's all gone. And I just am so concerned that we're going to lose that if something would happen to that tile line coming through.
Thank you.
And they want to go so close to it.
Thank you. Is Wally on the line? Does he have questions? No, not there. Okay. Are there questions from the parties? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Can you identify yourself first, too, please?
Christine Hike, landowner.
Hike. Okay, thank you. Ms. Hike, go ahead.
Yes, Joan. Question, you said you had land agents. You said you didn't want them to do the pipeline because you're organic. Had they threatened eminent domain, either outright or insinuated eminent domain?
No. The first I heard about the eminent domain was when we got the postcard with our land parcel from the IUB.
Okay. Did the land agent answer all your questions that you had asked? Or did you have other questions to ask of them?
He just said he would get back to us. We've tried to get him to come and look at the tile, that big main, and he hasn't been able to come see it. Or the irrigator, we wanted to show him how many people that it affects, just that one irrigator, how many farms it affects. He hasn't been able to come see that either.
Did the land agent tell you that the pipeline was safe?
Yes, he assured me that they had very good engineers that would go right underneath my tile, and they would be very careful so that there wasn't any damage.
Did you feel that the negotiations were fair? If not, why?
As I said, when we started out, it was laughable, actually. As I said, when he said, "You fix the corn by hand," I could understand why the bid was so low. And I just told him I didn't care what they paid. I wasn't interested. And then they did raise it. They just recently they did, but it's not even close to what would happen with that 24-month easement on that irrigator side.
Thank you.
Ms. Gruenhagen?
Thank you, Ms. Wirtz?
Yes.
Hi. My name is Chris Gruenhagen, and I'm representing the Iowa Farm Bureau here in these proceedings.
Ms. Gruenhagen, can you a little bit closer? Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Thank you. My name is Chris Gruenhagen, and I'm representing the Iowa Farm Bureau in these proceedings. I have a few questions for you to follow up on the far left parcel, the one that you four kids own.
Yeah.
Okay. PA001. Do you have a farm tenant on that property?
Yes, and that actually is me. I farm that. Okay. We farm that. Our family farm does that.
Okay. And did you let Summit know that you were a farm tenant?
I'm sure we did. Yep, because we talked about the yields and that with the organic.
And so you also do organic farming too?
Correct. Yes.
And when you talk about hand picking corn, is it only on this parcel and not on the other two?
Oh no, we don't hand pick anything.
Okay, then I misunderstood.
No. Yeah, no, we didn't.
Okay.
I can't imagine hand picking 80 acres of ground, let alone a lot more.
Yeah, that's why I was asking to confirm, because that's what I had heard. So
Yeah.
okay.
And that's what he said. Do you hand pick it? And I said, no.
No, okay. Just clarifying
No.
that. Great.
Yeah. I'm glad you clarified.
I was trying to figure out how you got such a great yield map if you hand picked.
Yeah. A lot of kids.
Yeah. Okay, and so also on that parcel, I don't know if you can see through the red, but do you see kind of a lighter colored line toward the south part of that property?
Yes, I do.
Is that where your 48-inch main is?
That is. Right, that's what I was hoping you could see.
Okay, yes, we can see it pretty well. And does that drain then to the drainage ditch there? I think it's ditch 61.
Yes, it does. That's the exhibit picture. That's where that's draining, that great big tile.
Okay. And then on the other two parcels, that 48-inch main is not on those two parcels, correct?
No, does not affect them at all.
But you do have lateral pattern tile that also maybe goes to that drainage ditch?
Yep, through the whole thing. Mm-hmm.
So do you guys happen to have a tile map for any of those properties?
Well, we do. We do. In fact, we showed it to Summit. But I don't have it with me
So does
right now.
So does Summit have a copy of that?
They should, yes.
Okay. So if they need to know where the tiles are, they roughly have an idea in order to repair it.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any, it's tiled, so I'm guessing the answer is no, but I just want to check. Are there any designated wetlands on any three of those, or any of those three parcels?
No. No.
And then how?
There are filter strips on both sides, as you can see, of that drainage ditch. There's filter strips that we don't farm. That's all grass. You can see it there. That
is that in CRP or any kind of program? That
it's just
the stream buffer?
It's just filter strips. Yeah, it's just buffer strips. Yes, correct.
Okay. Is that buffer strip enrolled in any farm program?
No.
And you mentioned you had a concern about access to your property.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
currently, is your access from the gravel or road to the north? Is that how you get to it?
Right. Correct.
Okay.
It is.
So you own all the way to the road on all three parcels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Right.
And so is the access concern then is just the maybe little strip of land south of the proposed route where you wouldn't have
That's
access?
correct. Mm-hmm. Right, we wouldn't be able to get to. And then, of course, on if you look to the right, ma'am, the one that's right south of the one that's not red, that's where I think.
The one in between.
I think we would have to. Well, I think we'd have to put the irrigator to the south of the pipeline or to the north. Anyway, one of those fields, one of the areas is not going to get any irrigation the whole time that the pipeline has that 24-month easement. I mean, that they could keep us from not putting the irrigator crossing. So it's not just from the pipeline to the field. It's all the way on one of those fields that the irrigator is not going to be able to get to.
So the well for the irrigator.
Did I explain that really badly?
Yeah. I'll just ask you a couple questions and hopefully we can clarify it. So the well for the irrigation is that very close to the center pivot then? The center point?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah.
So so how far does your water line run from the well to the irrigation equipment?
That is 50 feet.
And would that cross where the proposed pipeline route is, or is it currently south of that proposed pipeline route?
Correct. Yes, it's south.
The center pivot is.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So you just would not be able to use the center pivot during the construction period.
You wouldn't be able to use. Yeah, that's correct.
And so how would that impact your yields in that year for the rest of the field if you weren't able to use your irrigation?
If we could not use our irrigation on a year that it's corn, it would be $100,000. We figured that and refigured it and refigured because it's based on the yield map. The yield map shows it so well because the difference between them was like 50 bushel to the acre. Well, if your crop is almost 2 times the value of conventional, that's where the $100,000 came from.
And is the proposed route, is it for a 20-inch pipeline in this area? Do you know?
I do not know. I do not know.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Greenhagen. Are there any other questions from the parties? Mr. Simon, OCA.
Good morning, ma'am.
Just a clarification question. Even
Hi.
if the pipeline was moved south of the pivot point, then it would cut you off from the south part of your field. Is that correct?
Yes, that's why I don't have a suggestion for going across my field, because I'm like, you can't, because it all affects it.
And then one clarification question on the large drainage tile. You can kind of see it from this map when I'm looking at it. It appears to run parallel, but then does it come south and kind of make a diagonal in the very southwest corner of your field? So in fact, the pipeline would actually...
It curves.
Would the pipeline bisect?
Right. Yes.
Would the pipeline bisect it, or would it run lateral the whole way?
To the west, I believe it's going to cross it.
Okay. That was all the questions.
And it might not even be, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dubinsky?
Thank you.
Ms. Wirtz, my name is Brett Dubinsky, and I'm an attorney for Summit. I just want to clarify what the OCA was asking. Can we zoom in on where the lighter colored line goes up to that creek? Ms. Wirtz, you have the picture of the 48-inch opening there, and you'd said earlier that it ends on your property. Does it empty into that creek right about where that pointer is?
The one that's moving?
Yeah.
I would say it's about there.
Okay. So when you said that the pipeline may cross the drainage system to the west, you were referring to someplace west of your parcel. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Not our property. Right. No, it's part of that line.
Okay.
It's just part of that drainage.
All right. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay, seeing no more questions from the parties, Board Member Burns?
Test. There we go. All right. Ms. Wirtz, yesterday, when Mr. Fair was talking to us, I had some questions for him on his property with that 48-inch tile. Because based on the maps we're looking at, I mean, it's pretty apparent where that tile is at. There's, I don't know if you'd call it scarring on the field, or, but you can definitely see where it's located. Do you still continue to see a yield drop where that 40-inch tile is installed?
No, that is pretty much, there's a little bit yet, but not very much.
And do you know the year that 48-inch was installed?
I am not sure. It doesn't seem like very long ago. I would say maybe 4 years.
Okay. And I think Mr.
I know how time goes.
I think Mr.
It could be longer. Dan probably knows better than I do what year that went in. My husband would know.
I think Mr. Fair gave us a date yesterday, so I can go back on the record and check that out. But
Okay.
Yep. But no, that's the only question I had. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wirtz. We appreciate your testimony. You are excused.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.